So trauma memory is actually not the memory in your head that you can call up. So if I was to ask you, okay, think about the worst traumatic experience you had as a kid, and I have yet to meet anybody who hasn't had at least something that was hard or emotionally distressing in childhood. But think about the worst thing that may have happened to you. And that memory that pops up into your head is not the dominant manner within which the trauma is stored in your brain and your body. That's the cognitive reconstruction of the experience. And it's part of the natural process of a human to just kind of create memory, create a construct within which we can kind of experience the scenario. But it's not the dominant way that it's stored in the brain and body. The dominant manner within which the trauma is stored in the brain and body is predominantly sensory memory. It's what's called non-declarative memory. It means to not say. So it has nothing to do with a thought. It has everything to do with sensation, taste, touch, muscle movement, feeling, sensation, all of the sensory cues, proprioception, position in space. All of those sensory cues, your body is constantly on guard. Every novel stimulus that you experience, so if somebody walked into your office room, wherever you're doing this, if you're doing this with more than one person, if somebody walked into your room right now, your brain would constantly be assessing threat. Any novel stimulus, your brain automatically defaults to threat until it deems otherwise. Now, this happens probably 100,000 times a day for us, but we're constantly assessing threat because sometimes stimuli are novel. And when the brain determines that a threat is there, again, threat is based on perception and so on and so forth, your brain will flashbulb record all the sensory memory in your environment. So that includes temperature, lighting, position in space, the position of your internal organs, everything. Everything you could possibly imagine. And the brain encodes approximately 800 billion bits of information per second, sensory information per second. That's a lot of information. And so, in many ways, the reason the brain does this is because sensory cues are much more reliable, generally, than some type of cognitive interpretation that we've had of a memory. Why? Because over time, memory distorts itself. Our recall for events isn't really that accurate. And so the brain knows this. And so the brain knows that the most efficient way to create a template from which we can evaluate future threat is to use the sensory cues, because they're much more effective at determining threat.